dished themselves out £85 billion from since, it's been private.
Why are you eating red? Why are you eating chicken? All these mainstream news reporters need to look after our children, need to stop looking out for Zionist interests.
After you blame the Jews, where do you go from there? Well, you have to blame the gays, the trans and the drag artists. It's all their fault. Enter the violence against the police. Hey guys, and welcome back to Regrexit. And it really is Regrexit. Brexit England, Northern Ireland, Eastern Europe, and our good old friends in the US of A. And anybody else who thought that Brexit was a good idea, welcome. And this is the By Any Means Necessary channel. My name is GMC John Ribbs, and I'm really pleased to meet you, maybe for the first time. So today, we're here to talk about, I've got two subjects. The first one, is £85 billion. Now, wouldn't you like to have that in your back pocket? Well, if it was in your back pocket, it would be in the form of a cheque. But then you wouldn't want to walk around with £85 billion cheque in your back pocket. But you want to take that, you want to have that digital. And the second subject is one of our favourite subjects, racism. It's back again, rearing its ugly head. And you're thinking, how can you link these two subjects? Let's see. Now, this country, right, happens to be a country where it is full of educated people. And the reason why I say that is because every single person in this country, right, has to do a standard around 10 years of education. Right? And that is if you don't go to nursery. If you go to nursery, it's even longer. And that is, and remember, that is, that's only up to 16 years old. 10 years of education. It's only up to 16 years old. And we know that kids go to school up to 18 now. Right? So this country, a country full of educated people. Yes, it is. And the reason why I say that is because every single person has to have an education. It's the law. Okay? There's no getting around it. It is the law. 100%. You have to send your children to school. That's it. There's no if or buts about it. You send them to school. So, we're dealing with an educated nation of people. So, tell me this. And I'll say this to you, right? £85 billion. And I think it's probably more like 100 billion. If the truth be known. And maybe even more than, and maybe even a bit more than that as well. Because when you talk about 85 billion, you know that a lot of money, would have gone missing. If they could put it at 85, trust me, a lot of money would have gone missing, right? With creative financing. So we can probably nearly double that, to be honest. And that is the amount of money that the government have been allowed to steal. Okay, well, they didn't steal it. They gave people the ability to steal it by selling off the water companies. The water companies right now, the Labour Party now have said, well, it seems, that they've dished themselves out £85 billion from since, it's been privatised. Now, here's where the education comes in, because I'm in a country that's full of idiots, full of people who are really stupid. How is it, right, that I knew from when I was a really small child that if you sell off your utility companies, it can't be a good thing. It's got to be bad. Because you're expecting private companies, to act like a government. If the government was still in control of their water, in control of our water industry, right? You know what that would have meant? that would mean, right, that we have 50 billion pounds in our bank account today. Because the other 35 billion, they would have spent on on fixing up the pipes and all that. And building new reservoirs. When's the last reservoir that's built in this country? I should have looked it up, but I can guarantee you it's not been in the last 2 decades. No reservoirs. But yet, for all, they've handed themselves out £85 billion of the people of Britain's money. All handed out by our government. Given away. They might as well just walk up to someone on the street. It's reminiscent of just walking up to someone on the street and saying to them, you, woman, man, would you like this bank? Take this bank. That is what it's like giving away our water companies. We're a captive market. We can't go nowhere. Where else can we go for our water? What, we can go to Evian? Right, what are you going to do? Bath in Evian? Or the other one, Highland Spring? Volvic? Which one are you going to bath in? The one you get in the pound shop? Which one are you going to bath in? Because whichever way it is, it's going to be expensive for you to bath in that shit. Because remember, you've still got to warm it up. I know how women like it scalding hot. I don't know how women do that. How do women do that? How come women's skin, right, seems to be able to absorb this heat that a men are just like, oh, no, that's too much for me. And women are like, yeah, that's lukewarm. And men are burning in that shit. But that's like, so this is what these people have done. 85 billion given away. Money that should have been in our bank. And it's been given away. All at the hands of the government. You have to wonder how they got there. How is it, right, that we in this country decide that we're going to vote for people, right, who would do something like that? How are we going to vote for people who do something like that? Labour was in for 14 years and they didn't reverse none of this shit. They reversed nothing. You know why? Because to get into power, they have to act like Tories. That's the way how they have to be. They have to be like Tories. When until now, they can open this up and say, look, 85 billion. Yeah, but say, well, you know something. When you was in the first time, if you had reversed all of the privatizations, then you could have, you could be saying to us today 85 billion, but you're just as guilty as the others, because you would have, listen. If I, as a small child, could have seen this, I'm not speaking with hindsight. I'm not speaking with hindsight at all, because I knew exactly what was happening. You can't give a private company money and expect them to act like a government. I mean, who's stupid enough to believe that? I mean, do you know anything about people? Right? That's what you have to ask people. Do you know anything about people? If you expect a private company who will say to you, oh yes, last year we made like £18 million in profit. And this year we made 17 million in profit. So this year we're going to get rid of staff. That's their attitude towards it. If they take £1 million less than they took last year, right, then it's staff they look at, no, out, right? So we'll get someone, we'll just fill them jobs with get out. Because they've allowed this country to be run under greed. I'm thinking, I don't know if you saw my other video, because I'm going to do a follow-up to that, taking control of our politician. I'm going to do a follow-up to that video, right? But this falls right under that remit. Our water, sold off, paying for pension companies in other countries. I mean, but if you think about it logically, right, you can only say, well, what words could I use? I'm just going to think of a word. Let me just think. Stupid. There's one. The British public are stupid. The foolishness that is taken to get to this, where we are now. How did we get here? Racism. Today, we have one of the lionesses saying, you know something, we are no longer taking the knee because you know something, that shit hasn't worked. I'm saying, listen, love, Wilfred Zaha could have told you that, because he was saying that years ago, from a couple of from a little while after they started all the taking the knee. Those things don't work, because I'll tell you what happens. Right? The minute you get some type of unity between black people and white people, the minute you get that piece of unity, right, the right wing's like, I don't like that. So they just took the knee gesture and they repackaged it, and then they wrapped it up, right, and then they put it on top of the Union flag and said, yeah, that taking the knee is because they hate Britain. Repackaged, just sold to a different way. And so today, right, we are at the stage where the lionesses, our girls, are telling the British public, you're too fucking racist. Stop sending messages, right, racist messages to our black players. Wilfred Zaha could have told him this a long time ago, because he was on this a long time ago, right? Anybody, listen, there are some black people who say, something, it's a good, the gestures. But me, I know how evil the right wing are. And whatever, if it's Black Lives Matter, they take it, repackage it, repurpose, right, and then put it on top of the Union flag. And they do that time and time again. It's always the same argument. And you know when else they was doing that? They was doing that when they sold off your water companies. See the link? I knew I could link these, but that's when they was doing it. They was doing it from then. And that's how they got to do that in the first place, by repackaging racism and saying to you, listen, yeah, every problem you've got in this country is those blacks, those Asians, the Turks and the Greeks and the Jews. Every problem you got, it's all down to them. Bloody Irish as well. All down to them. It's all their fault. So vote Tories, right, and we will look after you. We'll keep them away from you. How's that gone for you, by the way? We'll keep them away. We'll keep them out of your cities and out of your towns. How's that gone? We'll keep them out of your hospitals. We'll keep them off your buses. We'll keep them off everywhere. How's that gone for you? And then they sell off your utility companies. And then today we have one of the lionesses saying, you know something, the captain, listen, you're too racist. And I say to you, the Monday Club, back then, there was something called the Monday Club. And that was the far right wing of the Conservative Party. And they was the ones who would say, you know something, yeah? Let's give these blacks and these Asians, yeah, 500 quid to go back to where you come from. And then hence Lenny Henry with his fantastic joke, right, back way back in the 70s. I'm sure it was 70s. I don't think it was the early 80s. Where he said, yeah, well, I'll take the 500 quid and then I'll go back to Dudley. But that's the message that our parents was getting, our grandparents was getting. Go back to where you come from, we'll give you 500 quid. Get the working class people on your side. And how do you do that? All your problems are those people's fault. And the reason why they can do that is because you're too racist in the first place. And then they just put this on top of it. And then today we get to 2025 where they're saying to you, oh, look at that. 85 billion, but take that out of our water company. And we're swimming through piss and shit. We're swimming through piss and shit. And we have some of the highest water bills in the world. And we're swimming through piss and shit. And they've taken 85 billion pounds out of this, away from the British public. And you know something? The British public are not upset about it. Not upset enough about it. I heard a woman from the radio this morning said, "Ah, well, you know, she heard what the presenter said. He said 85 billion pounds has been siphoned off, and she said, yeah, one of my neighbours, you know, they get help paying their water bill. So you heard that these people have taken 85 billion pounds away from this country, and your answer to that is that one of your neighbours is getting help to pay their water. Right. See? Message hasn't got through to her because she was still thinking to herself, I am a Tory. Because that's what they've done. They've sold that to these people in this country as if to say, yeah, a country full of working class people and who think, right, and they say, yeah, but we are like a small c conservative. Fuck off, you idiots. You absolute fucking fools. If you really believe that, right, then please, send me money to build a bridge over the Thames. Send it to me. Send me whatever you can. I'll take anything you can. Just send it. Send it. Because you should be stupid enough to do that. I have to wonder sometimes how we've got here. I don't have to wonder how we've got here. We've got here because of racism. That's the thing that's got us here 100%. Because I guarantee you that the Thatcher government used racism to get into power. Well, I don't have to guarantee you because I know they did. And what's happening today? Today, we're still in the same stupid culture wars. And even when you hear one of the lionesses, I don't even know how old she is, but she can't be that. I mean, she can't be that old when she's a captain, so she can't be that old. I mean, she can't be what I don't even know. Do you know? I forgot her name, and I should have really had all that to hand, but I haven't, so I'll just have to carry on. Right? But she. I don't know how old she is, but if you think about it, well, when Wilfred Zaha said all about the taking the knee and all that, that was quite a while ago. Right. And she was probably still at school. Right. There's a good chance that she would have probably still been at school. Right. So the message, if she today is saying that we are not taking the knee because Britain has failed to rid the country of racism, we're not taking the knee because you're racially abusing our black football players. I mean, don't you feel ashamed just to hear that? And then you hear Labour saying, oh, 85 billion pounds has been siphoned off. 85 billion. Our waters, we could have had some of the nicest, cleanest, freshest waters. Right? We could have literally had Evian coming through our taps. What have we got? We've got lead poisoning. I know a lot of the pipes are still lead, but we could have had that money, right, spent on our waterways because we need more. We need much more reservoirs. We need loads of reservoirs. And now they say, well, yeah, we'll go. You know, the government will tell you, oh, well, the private companies will, you know, they can run it better than we can. No, they can't. No, they can't. Maybe it's just because you vote for people, right, who say to you from the beginning, look, we can't run a train line, yeah, so vote for us. All of those things should be run by the government. Gas, water, electric, transport. Right? Those things need to be run by the government. Profits do not need to be coming out of those things. They should all be profit-free. Because all that money shouldn't be classed as profit. It should be classed as money that goes back into our coffers. Right? Not profits. Money that goes back into our coffers. Because that's how you should run the country. But in that time, they say, well, you know something? 85 billion, right, gone. And you've paid that, right? And then they've had to increase your taxes, right? Because they haven't got that income anymore. So, and now, right, to get the system up to 21st century standards, they're gonna have to upgrade it all. So now they're gonna charge you more to do that, right? And they've got to charge you more taxes, right? Because they still haven't got that income that they should have. Now, I'm sure, right, that a small child could say to you, you know something, yeah, I don't think it's a good idea to privatise. I don't think it's a good idea to sell your house to your next door neighbour and then rent it back from you. Even the smallest child could tell you it's a bad idea to have sold off all your water and all the rest of your utility companies. I'm sure that Britain is the only country in the world, right, that sold off all their water. I know some countries have got like a small portion, we've got private companies running a small portion somewhere within the country. But Britain's the only one who sold it all off to the private sector. And they wonder why everything in this country is doing so badly. Everything is doing so badly because they've sold everything off to the private sector, whether it is housing, right? Whether it is they're selling off bits of the NHS on a daily basis. Education, they're trying to sell off as much of that as they can. Whatever you can look at in this country, they're trying to sell off or they're selling off. And you have to say the Labour Party, are no different, because when they come into power, they could deal with some of these things, but they don't. Even now, the way how they're speaking about this is they're speaking about this from the point of view of tightening up the regulations, because they're saying that Ofwat or whatever they're called, right? Oh, they're going to disband them. And say, well, you are still not looking at this in the way you're supposed to look at this. Either you run it, right, or you put some really tight regulations in there. And when I say tight regulations in there, see, me in the first place, if you wanted to take that off of my hands, right, I would have limited your profit margin anyway. I said to you, well, you can only take your profit margin will only be 5%. Everything else has to come back to us. Right? And don't worry, because we'll do all the maintenance and everything. So after you got your 5% profit, everything else has to come back to us. Okay, that's if you want to run it. But they shouldn't have that. They shouldn't really have that option. It should just be the government taking it over. Because right now, they're saying, oh, well, if we take it over, then we're going to have to pay out so much money to pay these companies off. I said, what the fuck are you talking about? They're in so much debt that if you said to the bank, listen, call in their loan, right? Or you said to listen, right? You got this tax bill, you need to pay it today. But no. What you've done is you've allowed them, right, to borrow money, right, for banks to lend them money so that they can pay bonuses, shareholders, while the pipes are still all Victorian. And where was the good old British public last night? Thank you for that. Leah Williams, the English, is the lionesses captain, and she's 28 years old now. Right, so she was born 97, so she was born 97. So 28 years ago, right? And anyway, So where was the good old British public last night? Have a look at this, because this is where they were.
touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't fucking touch me.
You're not moving past me. Stay there.
You move back.
Stay there.
I ain't moving back.
You can both stand here still then. Ideal.
Touching all the nonsense.
No, stay there.
Don't keep touching me.
I'll keep touching you if I leave. Don't wait for me.
Tell your colleagues to back off now.
Too close. You're the most civil one of them.
So that happens to be the Bell Hotel. And, you know, that happens to be a nightmare for the left because, you know, that hotel has been down there for 5 years and they've never, ever had that type of thing happen. But you see, unfortunately, what's happened down there is a 41-year-old Ethiopian who has been in this country for 8 days after coming here on a little boat was put into that hotel and has gone and interfered with one of the local schoolgirls. At which time, apparently he's attempted to kiss her and he's touched her leg. So he's in prison and he's awaiting trial. He's denying it. You see, all that level of violence, what you saw out there, you know, 6 people has been arrested. Like that was from the last protest, but I think it's been going on for a little while down there. So that's been very, very intense. As you can see, you know, people jumping up on police vans and smashing police vans up, you know, smashing the wing mirrors, you know, puncturing the tyres, you know, smashing the windows. So there's been, you know, and opening the doors and trying to get at the actual police officers that were in there. Police officers having to drive through people. Right, so you can see it's been very, very intense down there. And all that comes through years and years and years of governments winding these people up. That's where that comes from. You know, having an economy like ours, where, you know, it seems to be, oh, you know, these people all have hotel rooms, and, you know, whereas, you know, we know they're really living in squalor, really. But, you know, whereas you've got British people who are born in this country, might have even been soldiers who have fought for this country, living on the streets. You know, all of those situations, yeah, are there to wind these people up. And, you know, the government have just done it successfully for so many years. They've successfully, right, just continuously. And more, you know, and when I talk about the government, you know, it's always been the Conservative government, because, like, if you ask these people now, and, you know, they will push the Labour Party into a complete different angle that the Labour Party should really be coming from. You know, right now, Labour have deported much more people than the Tories were deporting, but because they get pushed into that situation, even though right, a lot of those people are needed for the workforce in this country, because, you know, politicians, they're speaking out of both sides of their mouth when they're speaking, because they say, oh yeah, we're going to stop immigration, but they'll just keep letting people in because they know they need those people. But they'll tell you, oh no, well, you know, we're deporting. So, you know, so that's how that situation's come about. That situation is a nightmare for the people from the left, because other people from the left decided to go out there and counter protest, which was just, you know, when I saw that, I was just like, no, you shouldn't be doing that. Not a good thing to do. Go on counter protest, and when they have a grievance, and they've got a proper grievance. This is not like what they've been complaining about for the last 5 years. Oh, you know, there's a lot of black faces like hanging about on the high street, a lot of brown people just here, just hanging about around town. We don't like that, because, you know, white people get very uncomfortable when they see black and brown faces hanging about. So you got to remember, so that's what you got to remember. And Epping is a very, very much a Caucasian area, and so it doesn't take much, right, for the far right to go, because, you know, a lot of the far right would have got in there. All those people you see kicking and punching at police officers and smashing them, all those are far right. And I doubt any of them are from actual Epping themselves. I doubt any of them are actually from Epping. Right? I think there was a lot of people there that was from Epping, but I think the main people who was like going at the police officers, I don't think they was from Epping. I think they were more or less agitators who went down there to have a fight with the police, you know, and they could use this as the perfect example. And this Ethiopian idiot has given them the perfect example, right, for them to go down there and the perfect excuse for them to go down there and wage a war against the police and make it look as if to say, no, we're standing up for our kids. And I don't doubt that from the locals who have got their way and had that hotel closed down now, right? So but that person is an individual, and that person is in prison. And that person was in prison from, I believe, from the moment the police probably got hold of them. And that would have been long before these guys went down to that hotel. So, them going down to that hotel, because we've already had a situation where these people have tried to burn someone alive, burn people alive that was in the hotel, last summer. So, so that situation, that situation is one that... My last video I done about taking back control of the politicians. I think if you link this one, which is actually about, the water companies and the 85 billion, which I think, you can probably add a few more billion onto that. But that's what this was about. All right. But I think you can look at that, right, and look at the local charter for the local MPs. And if you've got waterways, any waters within your region, you can get them all signed a local charter that they're going to stop the local companies polluting your waterways. Because that now, you see, is completely bipartisan. Remember, local charter has got to be completely bipartisan. So there are certain things that you're not going, that you might want, but because they are a controversial subject, right? You won't be able to get in the local charter. But what you will be able to get in the local charter is things like your waterways and stuff like that, because everyone in your local area, right, is going to agree that we do not want the local companies to pollute our rivers. I mean, if you can find the people who's going to disagree with that, then I can guarantee you they're the people who are actually doing the polluting, right? But other than that, everybody in your area, so that's something is going to be that's something that's completely bipartisan. So it's along those lines what my last video was about. And do you know, right? I tried to promote it. I did get promoted on one platform, but on another one they said to me, no, you cannot promote this. Why? Because it was only me talking in it. I should be able to promote it if it's only me talking in it. I don't have that conversation with them because the last time I tried to appeal, they struck my account off. Right? And from then I've had to start two new accounts because my last one just got struck off. Even though it was building up pretty nicely, it still got struck off. So so I've just got to take it easy. And I think that a lot of I think there's a particular subject, right, that I do, and they don't like the way how I talk about it, and that's what I think. That's what I think a lot of this is about. And I ain't got no. I mean, I ain't got like I've got hundreds of thousands of people on anything like that. Do you know what I mean? So I'd just like to know why it's really happening. But I can tell you, it's definitely happening. I want you to just have a quick look at this.
All these mainstream news reporters need to look after our children, need to stop looking up for Zionist interests and importing all the people that are importing all these people into our country are being swept under the rug. We need to stop protecting those. We need to start reporting proper media.
I'm not letting them in my head.
So you see it for yourself. First up, it's the Jews. The great Zionist conspiracy, the worldwide conspiracy replacement theory. And where do you think they've got that from? They've got that from people like Tucker Carlson in America or Nigel Farage over here, the great replacement theory. They think that Jewish people are trying to replace white people with black and brown people. See, doesn't that sound... I mean, when you say that to yourself, doesn't it just sound like... Really? So white Jewish people want to replace white people with black and brown people. Right. But you see, it's a conspiracy theory that these guys can get behind and they can bring it onto the streets for hate, for the purposes of hate, for the purposes they can go on the streets and they can start attacking police officers and smashing up places. But let's see how much worse it got, that situation. Because let me tell you, it does get a whole lot worse.
And they're terrified, and it's not okay. So you have to listen. You have to be listened to. We have rights as well. You know, everyone talks about everyone's rights. We have rights. We're all taxpayers. We have rights. Protect our women. Protect our children. End of story.
And I know Keir Starmer's going to be watching this. What do you want to say to Mr. Keir?
Resign! After you blame the Jews, where do you go from there? Well, you have to blame the gays, the trans and the drag artists. It's all their fault. Even though Britain has had this long tradition, gays on our TV from way back when. I mean, EastEnders had a very famous gay couple. I'm sure one of them had AIDS way back in the day. And they've always had that, what's his name from Are You Being Served from way back in the day? Right? Paul O'Grady, one of our most famous drag artists, Lily Savage, Danny LaRue, and what's his name? Eddie Izzard. So I don't know so you tell me, what is it that these people actually have a problem with when it comes down to the rainbow flag? They're ready to these people are ready to burn the rainbow flag now. Why? Why? Because they've been conditioned. They've been conditioned so much that they're so stupid and they don't realise, right, that while they're out there and they're protesting in this way against all these things that they've been programmed to protest against, these people are being robbed blind. £85 million just gone. Billion with a B, just gone. All into the hands of the private enterprises. And these people are out there telling you, it's all the gays' fault. It's all the trans people's fault. It's all the drag queens' fault. It's all their fault. Do you think, right, that any parent in this country is actually happy that their child, right, has decided, you know what, I was born in the wrong body? Do you think any parent would really encourage that? Anywhere in the world. Do you think any teacher would encourage that? The child might go to the teacher and tell the teacher in the first place, confide in the teacher. But there's no teachers out there saying to kids, oh, yeah, you know something, yeah? That's just one of the most ridiculous, stupid things that you could ever imagine. But a lot of these people from the right, they're so stupid that they actually do believe this absolute nonsense. And even though, right, I guarantee you that every single party, right, Caitlyn Jenner is right up in there, right with those far right Congress women, right, who will tell you how much they hate trans people, and Caitlyn Jenner is up in the toilets with them in Mar-a-Lago. This is the point of the hypocrisy that these people are actually pushing. But you see, they have to be able to keep control of the minions, and they can only do that by keeping everybody fighting against each other. If we fight against each other, this is where we end up. We end up, right, with people on the streets shouting about, whether it's gay people or trans people, when some of these people may well be in their own families. A lot of these people, some of them might be affected by gay issues or by trans issues. But they want to go on the streets and they want to spread hate. So let's see how much further they went. And they did go a lot further.
That's a scum! Yeah, I'll take you.
Why are you introducing?
Enter the violence against the police. Now, those type of situations really make me laugh because I know for a fact, right, that as black people, we would never do that. Because we know we're going to get slaughtered. Listen, it would take a lot. It would take a real lot, right, to get us there. It doesn't take these people much to get them there. We know, right, that we'd be dealt with a lot different than the way how they are. We couldn't be up there like that, right, in police officers' faces. Even though, this is what I'll say to you. Right? I'll say this to you, right? Even as a white person, because you think to yourself, you know what, you got you've got privilege. In this situation, don't go and get up in a policeman's face because he's going to bust your face with his shield. Or she will bust your face with her shield. That's a guarantee. But these people, they're so privileged. They're so privileged, right? And because, the thing with them, right, is they have been persecuted, right? Deprived. Depraved means something completely different. Deprived. They have been, right, downtrodden. The whole world is against them, right? They have no privilege. The only privilege they have is they believe they can go into the face of a police officer and kick and punch at those police officers, and those police officers should not do nothing. Let's see how much worse this shit really got. It does get a whole lot worse. I guess, like me, you're asking, why are members of the left there? And in such small numbers as well. Such small numbers. And I completely disagree with the reason why. Well, I agree with the reason why they went down there, because I know they haven't gone down there to particularly protect the reason as to why it has kicked off in this particular area. And let me explain to you now. This is Epping, and it happens to be outside roundabouts where the Bell Hotel is. The Bell Hotel is a migrant hotel where they've been putting people who have come over on little boats, and they've been putting them in that hotel. So for years, the people of Epping obviously have been trying to get that place closed down. They've just been normal complaints. There's far too many black and brown people hanging out in the high street, not doing nothing. Some of them with cans of lager, all wearing new trainers, right? They've got new phones, right? And they've all got credit cards. Really. But that's, this is what's been going on down there because that hotel's been there for 5 years, and obviously they've been wanting to close it down for the longest of time. But now, unfortunately, what's happened is the left's worst nightmare, absolute tragedy for the left, for this to have happened. A 41-year-old Ethiopian who had been in this country for 8 days after coming here on a little boat, decided he's going to go and accost a schoolgirl somewhere in every month, maybe on the high street. Apparently kissed her and apparently touched on her leg. Now, obviously, he's been put straight into prison. And this is the thing that seems to have sparked the violence down there. Even though, the Bell Hotel would have been closed by the government, because the government would have had no choice now. Because, this has happened, so they would have had no choice other than to close it down, right? Because, the people, the local people will not tolerate, having that. I mean, they have already, right, got hate for these people. So that on top of it has just made it so much worse. So now that's why I tell you, I completely disagree with the people from the left who decided, you know what, we're going to go down there and we're going to, protest against them, because it makes it look like you're protesting, in favour of someone who could possibly be, who has been charged with some type of paedophilic offences. And that can't be right. There's no way that, us from the left can be associated with that in any way at all. No way can we be associated with that. So that's what's going to happen. These people will start branding us from the left. Oh, well, look, you're trying to protect paedophiles. No. Because I think even now, this has started to spread to other hotels, to other migrant hotels. I think there was something in this last night. And so this will just, this will be a summer of complete and utter violence that we're going to have. That's what I can foresee coming. And you see, you have to wonder, how comes these people have got so angry so quickly? Because the person who done this, would have been taken away immediately. And if you was to go to Africa now, for example, I'm just going to give you a small example. Right, when a white person has been caught doing something like this in Africa, right, you haven't got black people who go around, right, and blame all the white people for that one person's actions. Okay, so that is what these people want to do. They want to blame that one person and label every other black and brown person as the same as that person. And to me, that's just ridiculous. Stupid. But that's where we are. And that's why these people can get this angry this quickly. So let's see how much further they decided they was going to go with the police.
But you're inspectors or something, you've allowed it to happen just so these lot look bad and these lot look good, and it's not right, These lot here,
Well, you must say that the police seem like they've got a very difficult job there by some very people who could think, oh, these people seem very entitled, like they should be able to behave like this in front of the police. And I think that this seems like it's been like a build-up of like hate for a long, long time. Because one thing I can tell you, right, all of those people out there, right, they've all got black and brown friends. They all know black and brown people. They've probably got some in their family. So how is it, right, that they get into this mob-like mentality, and you'd think that the whole of Britain, I'm telling you, if I looked hard enough, I'd probably see some people that I know in that crowd. Because I'm telling you, these are all just your everyday, just regular folks that we all know, that we all see all over the place. But they seem to have got into a frenzy when they're, covering their faces, right, straight away, that's not really people who are representing Epping. Those are people those are outside influence. Right? Most of the people who are representing Epping, are the ones with their faces out, because they're so entitled. They think to themselves, you know what, I can go and kick and throw a punch at a police officer with no face covering. Now, I believe so far, there's only been 6 people arrested from that, right? But with this level of violence, right, I'm going to say, well, I reckon there should be a few more. But anyway, let's move on a bit and see how much worse this shit really got.
Wait, you see my truth,
Just standing there watching them. Why are you eating red? Why are you eating chicken? Get on the floor! You are all witnesses to that! You're fucked!
Now, you see, I did tell you, don't get in a police officer's face like that when they've got them riot shields. You see when the policeman hit him in his face? That took his teeth out. He had his teeth in his hand. Out. Remember before, in a little while before in that, you saw him there, but he was back on the police van and he was holding the police van back. And then later on, he went and put his face into a policeman's face. And next thing he's saying, oh, look, yeah, we got you. We got you. We know who you are. You're going to get for that. Well, when you're in that type of situation, then when you go to, how do you think you're going to, if a police officer hits you with their riot shield, then that's because you're too close to them. You shouldn't be in distance to be hit with a riot shield. If you wasn't in distance to be hit with a riot shield, then you wouldn't be hit with one, and you wouldn't have lost your teeth. Instead of go or sitting down in front of the police van, when he sat down in front of the police van and put his feet up on, you see, all of that is because these people believe in their mind that they have the right to go out there and do these things. If this was black and brown people, right, they'd be the first ones to be, to be giving police pictures and saying, oh yeah, I know that guy. Yep, I know that guy. Yeah, Leroy Johnson, I know him. If your name is really Leroy Johnson, I'm sorry for using your name, but it is the typical black name, right? So, but so if if it was people from, they would, these people, right, would be getting so angry about this. And why are these people so angry so quickly? What has brought them up to this level, right, that the police knew that they had to take riot police down to go down to where these people are? How come they just didn't have police down, just normal police down there? They had to have riot police down there. Because they know that these people are, once they get themselves agitated, they're exceptionally violent. And when the police retaliate against them, because because they're allowed to go right up in the police's face, when they will now, right, see, oh well, look, they shouldn't have done that. But unfortunately for them, yeah, I know in this country, right, things don't work like that. Once you start, throwing kicks and punches at police officers, right, in riot situations, right, there's, the laws are going to work. There's not going to be no laws that they've broken in any way they deal with it. Then there's no laws that they never do. There's never been a situation where like a riot police officer has gone too far in a riot in this country. That doesn't happen. Right? Because, it's not as if to say that, I know the police, they might rush through certain times, the riot police and start beating people with batons and all that type of stuff. But that's not really a normal thing. Most of the time they're standing back and then they might start moving forwards, right? But most of the time they're standing back. But so it's generally the people who have to go in their face, and that's what a lot of these guys was doing, and that's why that fool lost teeth. Let's just have a look at one of these last clips, and then we'll speak some more after that.
Where we go?
Well, this is some level of violence. So as you can see, Britain has got some real problems, some real racial issues, because these are really race riots. That's what they're really about. So you see, we have so much problem in this country, and you say because these people they can blame the government for all these little boats and that coming over, but if any of them had one small piece of sense in their head, they would understand that that's come because of the Brexit vote. That's why that's happened. Because before 2016, there was no little boats coming over. In fact, before we actually left the EU, there was no little boats coming over. All of those people used to try and get over on lorries, and so there'd be a lot less of them because Britain's border was in Calais. It wasn't in Dover. It was in Calais. So you used to have British customs who could check those lorries before they left, and it was so they used to people used to get through, but not in these large amounts what you see coming now. And the numbers was the numbers, they could handle the numbers a lot more before, but now because they've got so much coming over in little boats, because Britain was like well, to the French, we want to show you a good old-fashioned British gesture. We no longer want to be with you. We no longer want to have anything to do with you. So now you're asking the French to say, well, you know something, we're going to try and keep these people who want to come to your country in our country. If I was the French, I'd just say, give me the money. Give me the money, and I will do this for you. I will keep them away for you. While telling the French police, listen, make sure that none of the cameras see you. Right? When you actually push the boats out into the channel yourself, make sure none of the press see you, because that would be a bad look for us. Even with that, right, the French police officers have still been seen to be helping, because why wouldn't they? These people want to come to Britain. They don't want to stay in France. And Britain gave French a good old-fashioned British gesture. So, so if these people actually thought about their own stupid actions, they'd realise, right, that they have caused this problem. They're the ones that have caused this problem. And the fact that, that these people have now been labelled, as, they've been labelled straight away as, you label them as illegal. And so now, if you notice it, in Britain and America, asylum seekers have been labelled as illegal. Right. So if you go, so the people who are coming over on little boats, right, the majority of them are asylum seekers, and they've been called illegal, and they're not actually illegal, because it doesn't really matter what way you try and cross someone's border to try and get into that country, right? If it doesn't matter how you do it. Right. If you go there and you step on their land and you claim asylum, then you should be able to claim asylum. That's it. People don't turn up on airplanes and claim asylum. They get to the country however they can, whether it's on the back of a bus or on the back, on the back of a lorry, or they tie themselves to an aeroplane. But somehow, right, if they get into the country and they claim asylum, but what these people have done, and this is the right wing, and the press have just run with it in Britain and America. The press have just run with it. Oh yeah, these are illegal immigrants. Anyway, listen, I'm going to wrap this video up now. We can see the problems that we're having, and the way how we've got to, how they can steal 85 billion, and I think you can add a couple of dozen billion onto that as well, right? Because I think it's probably well over 100 billion just from what the water companies have managed to swipe away from the British public, So, and right, I don't know if you saw my last video, right? I've something to tell you about my last video, because, I'm going to be doing a follow-up to that one, so I want you all to look out for that one. Right. But my last one, it was just me talking, right? And what I said to you before, right, that I think that my stuff might be getting censored. I got a message from one of the sites, I won't tell you which one, because I've already been struck off of a site, right? Straight struck off. 3 strikes, bam, off. Because I appealed. So I ain't going to appeal. I'm not going to appeal. I'm not going to mention which one it is, but you should be able to work out which one it is as to, you know, as to how new the account actually is. But yeah, I got a message from one of them on Saturday. So no, you cannot promote this video, and it's only me talking in it. Not allowed to promote it. No, you cannot promote it. But see this video, yeah. I think that this video, you know, with the water companies, right, would be a really good thing for the local politicians' charter. But remember, when I say politicians, you want all of the politicians, everyone who's voted in. So whether they're councillors or whether it's a local MP, you want all of them to sign the local charter. So you get them working for you. That way, we can stop them. We can stop them from, you know, from being paid by big business, right? To vote in a certain way over certain issues. If they've got to vote on certain issues, we want to make sure it's not by someone who's been paying them to vote in a certain way. That's what we need to make sure. And that's why taking control of our politician and giving them a local charter will help us do this. Water it would be a great thing, because that's one thing that you can say that everybody in your local area will agree with, right? If your local companies are putting sewage into your local river or your local lake or whatever, and they're putting sewage into it, then you, right, can make sure that your politicians make sure that doesn't happen by making them sign a local charter. So you see, that would be like a good thing that most towns and most cities can work with everybody. Because remember, your local charter, it can't be about, it can't be really about politics as such. It's got to be completely bipartisan, because you don't want to get into a situation where you're making politicians sign a charter where they can't do something. So you want them to. You want to make sure that it's things that we know that they have control of, and putting sewage into your local rivers and your local waters. I think that's always going to be a good start. Anyway, my friends, I need to wrap this video up, and it was really nice to speak to you guys. My name is the MC John Ribbs. This is the By Any Means Necessary channel. It was really nice to speak to you guys. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Especially comment. I'll see you guys soon.